Hello and welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and this is the Earth911 podcast. As you know, we talk to innovative recycling and sustainability leaders on a regular basis, and today we are just very pleased to be joined by Mark Cleveland, who is with Hytch.me. The Hytch app is an incentivized carpooling tool that allows companies to reward employees for driving to work together. Mark, you just started out in February 2018, but you've already done a big project in California for Share a Ride Month. Tell us about what's going on with Share a Ride Month, and then we'll dig into the details of Hytch.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having me, Mitch. And, all right. So first of all, clean air affects everybody, right?
Absolutely.
We've launched, you're right, we launched here in Tennessee in early 2018. It's actually, the company's founding was back in 2015. And we wanted to, we've been working on this technology and our platform for quite a while. And then it just really expressed itself so successfully here in Tennessee that we went over to California and said, hey, they got a clean air problem out there. And there's just such a engaged community. October 3rd was California's Clean Air Day. And this month is Share a Ride Month in the Bay Area. The MTC is promoting sharing rides, and everybody's trying to take single occupancy vehicles off the road. And we think we've come up with a strategy that works, and we're trying to share that news with everybody.
Well, tell us about that, how Hytch works, because in a way it's a little like a dating app, and it's also a little like Uber. You find somebody to drive to work with, and you both you share the costs, obviously, but you also get some incentive payment from your employer. How does it work?
Well, Hytch is a platform that allows people to earn rewards when they share any ride using the Hytch Rewards branded iPhone or Android app. Actual ride sharing, we think, is the single fastest way any individual could take their carbon footprint and reduce it. So Hytch connects people, and we use cash from our sponsors and from employers to influence the mobility decisions that people make, whether they're on public transit or in ride hailing. So we buy carbon offsets so that every mile that you track with Hytch is a carbon neutral carbon zero mile.
That's great.
And then people are earning anywhere from a penny to 13 cents a mile in some areas where there's more sponsors and where their employers are really engaged in trying to take single occupancy vehicles off the road and trying to help their employees catch the incentive and spread the news about smarter mobility decisions. And ultimately, it all results in less congestion, cleaner air, and a healthier environment for everybody.
Well, now in Tennessee, you've done a number of projects, including with the municipal WeGo Transit in Nashville. And as a result, I understand that you've eliminated about 1 million miles of driving already this year. That's an amazing number. How many people had to pair up to do carpooling to get to that kind of savings?
Well, we have about 9,000 people in the Middle Tennessee, Nashville area who've downloaded Hytch. It's hytch.me, the website, and Hytch Rewards is the tool. So we've got 9,000 people out there, and they are pairing up with their friends and their neighbors and their coworkers and family members, and we're tracking their decision to share a ride. And sometimes they're on public transit. We go public transit. They might be on the train system out here or in the electric shuttle buses running downtown. As a matter of fact, just to give you a quick update, we're up to just over 4.1 million miles shared. We've calculated from the average emission of a vehicle, the savings that represents to our environment, which is about 1,100 metric tons of carbon that didn't hit the air, and who knows what kind of nitrous oxide and other types of pollutants didn't get sent out to do their damage. We've distributed over $134,000 in cash to our community, and they collectively have saved 82,776 trees.
And for only 9,000 people to make that big a difference is astonishing. I mean, that just shows us how small moves by individuals can add up to something really good for the planet.
Yeah, and people are sharing rides more often than they think they are. And our mission is to make you think about sharing rides first instead of last. And then if you track it, that gives us the tool set we need to offset those miles. So now, even if you're in your SUV with, a couple of buddies going to a Tennessee Titan game, you are a zero emission mile. And the Titans, for example, actually, we did this with the Predators. The Predators here in town put a bonus together with Nissan and paid people 4 cents a mile to share a ride to the Stanley Cup playoff game. So, yeah, this takes a fan and turns them into a super environmental evangelist overnight. And the more people you bring to an event in the fewer cars, the better. And we're all trying to do our part, and we find that people are thinking about it. They remind themselves a little bit of cash is a great incentive, and then some employers are even going a step further by maybe geofencing a couple of their factory locations or the facilities that they want to see people share rides to, and they'll pay. I've got one employer that pays 3 cents a mile to their employees, whoever they are, and as employees they share rides, and then they pay another penny to whoever it is that shares the ride with them, because it takes 2 people to share, right?
Yeah. Now that's fascinating. So Nissan, I know that they've done several projects with you, but this idea of geofencing, and for our non-technical listeners, geofencing simply means that there's essentially a virtual line drawn on a map around a location in which, if the phone is there, it knows to do its thing, to hook up a ride. But as you think about how to expand an area around a factory, for instance, and get people to collaborate to drive to work together, so as many or a third many cars are traveling, you do a number of things besides save energy. You also create small communities that can support one another as they commute. They can commute further, potentially. They certainly are going to have a better time if they're sitting and talking with others. That's a big difference than thinking about, taking an Uber somewhere. And of course, an Uber is really sort of a modified single ride. It's just that you're being driven unless you bring friends along. Hytch is really focused on this idea of helping you understand your impact. And that's, I think, where we're headed as a society. And how we're going to get past this big challenge is start to understand that measurement. What do you think about that?
I think you've hit a couple of nails on the head right now, Mitch. I mean, let's look at it from the employer's perspective. If you have employees that are driving a half an hour, 30 minutes, 40, 50 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever they're suffering in traffic on their way to a job, think about that as mobile mentorship. We've got one employer that's willing to pay a dime a mile to their employees who are a part of their mentorship group, longtime employees, rising stars, green team and veteran team members. And they're saying, hey, look, we'll put these employees into a group. We're going to give them an extra incentive to take any other employee in our team to work, because an hour of round trip mobile mentoring is practically priceless. So you drive 50 to 60 miles to work, or maybe only 5 miles if you're in Atlanta, and it still takes you an hour. And you get that time. You get that time with another, and it's a culture building opportunity. So you hit that on the nose. We're excited about the way that employers are creatively using geofences to give their employees an extra incentive. Lipscomb University, for example, is paying a nickel a mile to faculty, students, and staff who will park at any one of their 5 satellite parking facilities. And the whole idea there is, 8,600 faculty, students, and staff are competing for 2,100 on-site parking spots. And so they have to go and get satellite parking. So now you've got shuttles, you've got satellite parking.
Yeah, so you're doing the logistics of the organizing of these communities, of transportation communities. That's a really deep difference between an on-demand service and one that is achieving policy goals. In this case, lowering
carbon.
There you
go.
Yeah.
So here you can put a policy goal in place, which is to say, let's get more people to park off-site, and then let's shuttle them to campus. and let's reward them for getting on the shuttle because we know they parked off-site. And then let's give them a reward for parking off-site and for bringing somebody else in their car. And what's happening, interestingly, I'll just say this, we are not doing the logistics. We're giving people credit for working out the logistics in a smarter way on their own. Between their friends and students. Yeah, we do nothing but pay people to make smarter mobility decisions. And even in states, let's say upstate New York or Pennsylvania, someplace where we haven't gotten to yet, the app works just fine. And it can track your carbon footprint reductions and give you a zero emissions mile. And eventually, maybe we'll have Amazon or Microsoft or some major national sponsor that says, hey, this is a really good idea. People are better organizers than we give them credit for. And they will organize themselves for a modest incentive. And we've got, we're paying $20 a month, $10 a month, $30 a month to people based on how frequently they take the bus or the train, or we're giving them an incentive-based reward. And it's actually true that people are self-organizing to take advantage of the highest rewards. And that's how you get the behavior you're looking for.
That is fascinating. And as a former Microsoft employee who drove an hour and 40 minutes each way, I am very familiar with the fixed programs that corporations have in place. In fact, Microsoft has a bus service that reaches all over the Northwest. But you have to be on the routes in order for it to make sense. The next step is to break those networks down and let people self-organize like you're talking about. Do you think that people are aware now of the carbon impact of a drive, or is that part of the education process you have to go through with people?
I don't think people realize that 6 tons of carbon is emitted from their vehicle every year, and 19 pounds of emissions come from every gallon of gas. I don't even feel good about saying that out loud because it just doesn't seem like it could possibly be true, but it is. And so we believe that once you start tracking and you see your dashboard and you see how many trees equivalents that you've saved because of this behavior, I think then you become just more aware of it. And that's really what we're about, is to try to share the ride, make better mobility decisions. We don't care if you take the bus or a van pool or a car, but ultimately the real problem is single occupancy vehicles. And 76% of Americans drive themselves to work. I mean, there are bus services out there. Google has them. Apple has them. They wander through the back streets, make the neighbors a little bit upset. They create 2-class systems, right? I mean, there's the private bus for the Microsoft guys, and there's the bus for everybody else. Ultimately, we just have to celebrate that there are better mobility options, that everybody's doing their best to try to tackle this problem. But individually, we don't see the incentives. We don't see it unless we're tracking it. So that's what we think Hytch Rewards is charged with doing.
And you're going after what, according to surveys you have done, the users, the consumers who are collaborating to self-organize have the biggest problem with, which is finding somebody to share with. So how do you do that in Hytch app?
Oh, that's a great question. We don't help match up people today. We did that at one point in the past. And what we learned was that people were not all that excited about that. They have their own networks. And then what happens is they start spreading the news in the organization about how they're making, $20 a month on Hytch. And people go, what? And then they start spreading peer-to-peer, group-to-group. The socioeconomic parity is similar. The neighborhoods where they originate are similar. And people can get and find these rides a lot easier than they think they can. But there was a big resistance to being introduced to a stranger and matched up and paired up, and just sort of swipe right if you want to carpool with them, swipe left if you don't. We found that we could grow about 7 times faster if the only thing we did was rely on people and their existing networks in their contacts in their phone and just paid them to pair up. So that's what we did.
That's brilliantly simple.
It gives people credit for, humans decide who they want to ride with in about 0.3 of a second. They decide if they trust you in about 0.7 of a second. They look at your car and decide if they ever want to have a second ride in about 1 second. So we should give ourselves credit, and then we should reward the people who make that decision and continue to draw as evangelists for smarter mobility. They continue to draw more and more of their friends and neighbors and networks into this habit, which is really the habit that everybody out there wants them to make, right? We got to get, you take 5% of the cars off the road, and all of a sudden everybody gets about 10% faster. The entire community benefits. So it's really I believe that infrastructure, really, the new infrastructure is behavior. We can't afford all the infrastructure that everybody wants to build. We can't add a tube or add a train or add a lane or add a bridge. We can't do it fast enough. And when we do, we fill it up. So what we really ought to do is look at the behavior that creates congestion and drives emissions and is less than optimal for our future. We look at that behavior and say, hey, it's going to cost us a lot less to pay that person $1 to make that decision to take the train. Believe it or not, they have a car that they left at home too.
Yeah, it's a small change, but it's one that they self-organize and that they feel good about, and that is also how we form communities. Which, going back to the mentoring and so forth, there are other forms of ride collaboration we may see. Someday you may get a ride with your accountant to work who wants to talk through your finances while you're driving. You never know. And so,
wouldn't that be great?
In fact,
that would put me right straight to sleep.
Yeah, but your accountant would be happy, and and I try to keep mine happy. But that's fascinating. So I love the community organizing to solve its own problems. Now, so Hytch, HYTCH.me is your website. You go in, you can find the link to either the iPhone or the Google Play Store, and just get started.
That's right.
We encourage everybody to check it out. And Mark, we thank you for taking some time to talk with us today.
Well, I've got a big place in my heart and a hope for the future. I want the next 6 generations of Clevelands to be able to breathe. And I think that's true of all your listeners. I think that's why they come to your podcast and stay informed and stay organized and really vigilant. So I'd just like to say 3 cheers to clean air, and thank you for paying attention to Hytch Rewards.
Well, come back and tell us how it continues to develop, because it's a fascinating story.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's the end of Sustainability in Your Ear today. Mark Cleveland, the CEO and co-founder of Hytch, HYTCH, is our guest. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with another innovator interview. Take care, folks.